Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you're calling in from, we're glad to have you here today for the next edition of Music Biz's Common Ground webinar series. My name is Henrik Bick. I'm here with the Music Biz communications team. Glad to welcome you to today's session. Before I introduce today's host, I just have a couple of quick housekeeping notes. First and most important are some tips to help you make the most of today's webinar. If you'd like to connect with your fellow attendees, be sure to use the Zoom chat feature. You'll want to change your chat settings to everyone so that way your fellow attendees and today's presenters can see your messages. We'll also be taking Q&A at the end of today's webinar. If you have any questions that come up that you'd like our presenters to answer during the session, drop them in the Q&A dashboard. To access that, you'll click the Q&A button on your Zoom dashboard. It'll pop up on a separate screen, and you'll be able to send your questions in that way. Reminder that this webinar will be recorded and hosted on Music Biz's website, should be available by the end of day today. You can access that both through musicbiz.org, go to the events section of our website and visit the event recording archive, or go to the educate section of our website, navigate to Common Ground webinar series, and it'll be available there. We'll also post these links in chat today so that way you have direct access to them. Outside of today's webinar, in case you missed it, we have a couple of big events coming up in the Music Biz space over the next few months. Most importantly is that we've announced full details for Music Biz 2026. As of today, registration, hotel booking, our call for presentations, and Busy Award nominations are all open. So you can start planning your trip to Atlanta next year, May 11th to the 14th, starting right now. Hotels book up the quickest, so be sure to secure your room soon if you're planning to be there. Our call for presentations allows you to inform how the educational program of our 4-day event is shaping up, so be sure to send us your ideas before the early December deadline, but just about 2 months left for that. And then finally, our Busy Awards returns for its 5th edition on the Wednesday, May 13th agenda. If you'd like to nominate your peers for one of our crowdsourced Busy Awards, be sure to visit musicbiz2026.com to access those forms before the January 28th deadline. And musicbiz2026.com is your one-stop shop for everything you need for the conference. If you're planning your travel and your registration, submitting for the call for presentations, and like I mentioned, the Busy Awards. To kick off 2026, however, we have our 3rd annual Trust and Safety in Music Symposium, which will take place on January 12th at NYU. Once again, registration for that event is now open. You can visit musicbiz.org and click on the Trust and Safety logo to access that. We are looking to publish the full agenda for that event next week, so be on the lookout for that. If you want a direct update on that event and more from Music Biz, be sure to check our website often. As I said, that's musicbiz.org. And be sure to follow us at MusicBizAssoc on Instagram and at Music Business Association on LinkedIn. Finally, in the world of virtual events, we have another webinar coming up in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today on the 30th. And then our next Music Biz Passport event, the global virtual event series that we host. Our next session for that will be Tuesday, October 21st, and it's going to focus on music camps as a artist growth tool, both in the States and worldwide. You can register for that event by, once again, visiting musicbiz.org and clicking on the Music Biz Passport logo. And then from there, you can also view recordings of our past Music Biz Passport events. But enough about future events. Let's get back to today's event. We're really excited to have the Muso.AI team with us to talk about their new audit tool. Please welcome from Muso.AI, Aaron Kaufman and Kieran DeKaiser. Gentlemen, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Let me get things situated here. Today, I want to talk to you about how we at Muso.AI have a new tool that allows you to close gaps in your or royalties. So what we've seen is that there's a very big discrepancy in the songwriting credits that we have in Muso that has been brought in from the label copies and the distributors to what is inside of the MLC that can reveal a quite large amount of unpaid royalties that are sitting there. And we see that over 85% of the songwriters in our system that kind of resemble all the songwriters in the whole world have at least one critical issue leaving money on the table at the MLC. So I want to dive in how songwriters, publishers, and admin can use our auditing tool to uh, identify these issues and to help get paid on them. On today's call, it's myself, Kieran Kaiser. I'm the co-founder, and I'm also joined by my co-founder, Aaron. I come from the world of engineering. I worked in the studios for a really long time, also been an artist for a while, and we have been working on Muso for about 8 years. And Aaron, can you give a little bit of a background?
Yeah, I come from e-commerce, big data, healthcare, and been super passionate about music for my entire life and trying to solve problems that we've seen with many artists, songwriters, you name it. This was born in the studio by artists for artists, so we're really passionate about what we're going to show you today.
So I want to take you through the general music credit problem that uh, exists in the industry, how we are in a position to solve it and have been solving it over the last 8 years, how we then compare what the data is inside of Muso, comparing it to the data set that is in the MLC that reveals some of these discrepancies, and then finally the auditing tool that allows you to identify those issues for any songwriter in the world and to take action upon solving all of that. And then we'll have a QA at the very end. So the music crediting problem, and this should be no secret to anybody on this webinar, it is a age-old problem that has yet to be fixed. But what we see is that the credits in the industry and the understanding of what contributor has worked on what piece of music is incredibly difficult to understand with fragmented systems and systems that don't really talk to each other. So it's our mission to solve music credits globally, and we've uh, we've taken it upon ourselves over the last 8 years to take this very complex challenge, and we've done quite a good job at getting the trust of individual creators, but also publishers, labels, and other companies to also institutions like Sound Exchange, a Recording Academy, at BeatStars that rely on the accrediting data that we have assembled to be accurate and to be true. So if we look at the current tracks that are on the streaming services, if we look at tracks that have more than 1 million streams, more than half of all of those tracks do not have a full set of accrediting data around them, meaning they do not have a songwriter, producer, and an engineer on them. More than half of tracks that have more than 1 million streams. So the coverage of these credits is very low. There's a huge gap in the contributor data even today. And that is causing huge issues down the line, not only of attribution, of allowing people to have the right resume, the right portfolio, but what we're now seeing also in issues in getting paid correctly. And this doesn't only happen for the lower end of the popularity. This happens on really high popular tracks that get streamed a ton, where there's a whole bunch of money waiting for the people to be correctly credited. So the question is, why does this happen? And there's a few different areas that have just been kind of plaguing this issue for the last a couple of years. The very first and obvious one is the fragmentation of our data. Is we have completely different data sets if you look at what is on the master and what is on the publishing side, and they get fed by completely different data pipelines by the different entities, one on the label side, one on the publisher side, and it rarely gets done in unison and correctly. We also just have to deal with legacy data sets. We have labels that even prior to streaming had some of this information, and they may have some gaps in this information. They then got acquired, streaming came along, they had to move their catalog over to streaming, and all those gaps just got adopted into streaming and never really got solved. We also just have the innovation of streaming and the DIY distribution. When the distributors first came onto the market, it wasn't necessary for you to put in the credits in order to upload a song. They wanted to have the lowest barrier of entry possible for people to be able to send their tracks to the streaming services, leaving a whole lot of gaps. Even now, the last couple of years, where there's a lot more focus on putting the credits in, it's still not a requirement to do this, to send it in. And then we have some lack of standardization too. DDEX has done some great work into creating the frameworks and the standardization of how these distributors or publishers or labels can package their data together and send that over. But that doesn't mean that it actually gets filled out correctly. What you will often see is that there's no use of identifiers, there's no use of the proper legal names, there's no use of kind of a combined system that ties all of that together, which then again ends up in a really fragmented state of the industry. And we see this. So especially for a contributor who doesn't always work with the same artist, say songwriter, say an engineer, they might work with a different artist and different labels. They're at the mercy of how that artist or that label will put in that information. And maybe on a release one, they will put in their normal name, so John Smith, and they won't put in an IPI. And then on the second release, they will put in their full legal name, and they will put in their IPI. So the data that we get, that the streaming services get at the very end of this, is two different John Smiths who now we all have to understand, all right, is this profile one or is this profile two? Should they be merged together? Should they be split? And because there's no proper identification happening on the distribution side, we end up with quite a few issues, especially with common names. This doesn't happen a lot if you have a unique name that might actually come out to be good, but mainly John Smith or some other very common names that don't have an identifier around them will then very often just be one profile or one catalog that is tangled with a few different profiles together that have to be split eventually. So really this comes down to there's still no correct way and standardized way for the whole data pipeline to choose the correct contributors to be sent downstream. And not only that, so that is only on the master recording side, but then there's also a whole different pipeline on the publishing side, meaning that you just have a plethora of different naming conventions of different types of profiles. We have certain profiles on our platform. Take Timbaland, for example. He has 37 different naming variations on our platform that have been merged together. Some are his legal name, some are his stage name, some are a combination of his legal plus stage name, some are his first name is abbreviated or he has his middle name in there. There's so many different variations of where some of his credits will end up on that there's just a lot of duplication and a fragmentation that has to be solved in order for the industry to understand what is an individual's whole body of work. And now even on the CMO side, on the PRO side, even at the MLC, the streaming services side, they will bring in all of this data, and it's very hard to understand when there's a duplicate or when there's not. And we have done quite a lot of work on top of our data to help them understand all of this. So how do we come into all of this? How do we solve it? How do we help solve all of this? This is a very complex issue to be a source of truth for the industry, but that is really our goal. Is we want to be the source of truth when it comes to crediting data, when it comes to understanding what contributor has been tied to what track and also what musical work. And how we've gone to do that is we've collected all the data post distribution. So we get the same feed from the distributors that the streaming services get. We get feeds from publishing sources, analytical sources, from social awards. We've tried to aggregate all the possible data sources within the music industry together to make sense of all of that and to represent what is the current state of the music industry, and kind of holding up a mirror and saying, look, this is the current state of all of it. We know there's gaps, we know there's issues, but we now allow you, the creator or the publisher or the admin, to come in and make changes on top of that. We have quite a few data processes that, in bringing all this together, we already do merges. We try to make sense of all of this. So there's already a cleanup process that happens while we bring and aggregate all of this data together. But we then also allow users to contribute on top of this. And when I say users, these are really the individual contributors that have worked on the song. So it's not just somebody who's browsing on the internet saying that this is true. No, this is really the individual creators who are saying, this is missing from my catalog, this is correct, this is not correct. That all packaged together, we then share with our data customers through data feeds or through the APIs. Some of our data customers are the Recording Academy. So if you go to vote for Songwriter of the Year or a Producer of the Year, you're actually searching our database of profiles to choose from to help do all of that, same way you're voting for a track or voting for an album. And our data goes over to Sound Exchange, to Napster, to BeatStars, and a few more that are on this screen. So we really try to empower the industry by giving them an accurate source, or the most accurate source of credit information out there. Now, we are not saying that we have fixed all possible credits. What we're saying, we've aggregated all of it. We've done quite a lot of work to give it a leg up and to give it some value. But where the most of the value comes from is the individual creators and publishers adding on top of that data set. We bring in most of all the music data that is available every single day. So we'll bring in all the tracks that are available on the streaming services. We'll bring in all the credits around all of that. And then what is different about our platform is we also bring in consumption data. So the streaming data, the Shazam data, how it's performing on socials as well. And then finally, the publishing set from the MLC and also SongView, to really give an understanding of, all right, now we have the master side on the catalog, we have the publishing side, we have the credits around that too, and we have consumption data all merged together to represent what is the contributor data within the industry. And we bring that in on a daily basis. So any single new track that gets uploaded to a streaming services, we will have it, and we will be showing the credits around that, and also the consumption data around that. And I think it's helpful to kind of show you within the UI itself. So this is our website. If I go over to a profile, or let's go over to this track over here. So any given profile, we have a preceded based on what is in the label copies. We have shown who they're signed by, or what their credits are, and then the consumption data around all of those credits as well. So this is really for the first time that a songwriter, an engineer, a producer, somebody behind the scenes who might not have access to a Spotify for Artists or to an analytical tool, that you can see consumption data based on the credits. And specifically for songwriters, this is very interesting, because normally the artist tools don't allow you to aggregate stats on the songwriting credits. We have our own charts that we show of where they are. We even have a feed of activity of every single time new credits are added or a new streaming milestone has been done. We have an aggregation of all the roles, which labels they have released on, which publishers have published their works, and who they've worked with too. And then a representation of every single track that has all the contributors on there in the different categories of engineering, musician, producer, and songwriters. So we really have encompassed everything that is on the streaming services and all the activity around that, which makes this data quite interesting. Um, so uh, as I showed you there, we had a profile page, but there's no user behind that profile page yet. What the typical flow is of when somebody comes on board is they will see themselves in our preceded data. They will proceed to claim that profile, and they will have to prove that they have access to one of the social media platforms in order to gain access to that platform. And then one of the first things they'll do is they'll go in and merge the duplicates that I mentioned before to represent one body of work for the individual under one profile. And once they have done that, they will go through their catalog and see what credits are missing or what credits are there, and if there have to be any changes around that. Now, when a user wants to put in a new credit for a contributor, what we do is we take the history of their credits within the label copy, and we check to see what the risk is of adding this new credit to this profile. So we will check to see, has this user worked in this genre before? Has he worked with this artist before? Does he usually work with artists in this popularity? Does he usually work of tracks in this popularity? Does he work in this time period before, or was he only active in the 70s? There's a whole bunch of checks that we go through from a system side in order to determine, okay, what is the risk of us adding this credit to this profile? So it's not as blank as somebody saying they worked on a Justin Bieber track. That will not go through. And there's certain roles that have a lot more scrutiny around them, mainly the songwriter and the producer credits, because those have royalties associated to them. And if it does not pass, if it is medium or even high risk, we will ask them for more proof. This can be work for hire contracts. This can be that they can show they have access to the project files. This could be communications, NDAs. It can be anything that they have that can show that they were, in fact, part of this project where we can still accept it. And even if that does, the rights holder and the artist always have the option to remove a credit if it's wrong. So through this whole process, we have about 70,000 credit submissions that come in every single week that are approved, with a total of 6 million credit submissions that have gone through our platform year to date. And I want to give you a little bit of a sense of why people are doing this. And I touched upon this before just a bit, but we have brought in the consumption data and built dashboards and features that kind of gamify all of this. And think of this kind of as a Spotify for artists, but for the individual contributors, where we bring in the streaming analytics, the Shazams, the views on the short form platforms that can be looked at on every single week and every single month. We give them their top streamed. We've gamified it with our own Muso charts that they want to be a part of, and they can see where they are on those charts. We also do our own milestones once they've crossed that as well. And then going into the promote is we make it really easy for them to share what they have done within their catalog to social media, so that it is very actionable. And then lastly, they're also able to purchase these plaques that they love to do that celebrates the successes they have either on their profile level or on a certain track, a milestone that they have reached, that they can hang on their walls. We see studios of people all the time who have maybe 7 of them, 6 of them on the wall that love to celebrate all of this. So all in all, people are motivated now to having their credits be accurate, because it turns on features like the analytics, the shareables, the charts, and they now want to make sure that when they're part of a new song that they're doing, they think of, oh, let me make sure that my credit is correct in Muso, because then my numbers go up, then I'm part of charts, then I'm able to get a new plaque. So That was a big thing that we struggled with in the first 3 years. Is we had all of this tech and all this possibilities, but the motivation of getting the individual creators to want to put in this information was lacking. And that's something that we've unlocked with a lot of the gamification that we have that make it a lot of fun to do that. So we have over 300,000 users all over the world that have contributed all of this information. This is on the individual creator level, but this is also on the publisher level, management, a record label, and even a publishing admin too, who represent the individuals who will put in this information. So all of this is to kind of give you an understanding of the scope of our data, of how large it is, of how that we have a creator community who is very actively wanting to put in more information that is correct, that we can share with our data partners. And what we started doing since last year is we've started to compare what is inside of the Muso database in the understanding of what tracks and ISRCs do we have in our side to what the MLC has. And we have some interesting pivots that came from that led us to developing the auditing tool, because we see that there's so much opportunity for almost every single songwriter out there to at least get something that they're leaving on the table specifically at the MLC. We are going to be adding more CMOs and other places within the auditing tool soon, but we're starting off with the MLC because they have a very good data set to start with. So this is coming directly from the MLC data set. So anybody that is on the data feed will be able to pull the same amount of numbers and the same amount of conclusions. But we see they have close to 5 million songwriters, 270K publishers, 50 million works, and 224 million recordings. And they've done an amazing job in being able to put all of this together. This is not to say that they have not done that. This is just to say that we have a richer understanding from the label copy side of what the songwriters in the whole world are, and we're able to help bridge those gaps that they have. So if we look at the works that they have, of the 50 million works, over almost 2/3 of that doesn't have any recordings linked to them, meaning, okay, the work was properly sent in, but it's not collecting any royalties at the moment because there's no recordings linked in there. And of the 224 million ISRCs that have been submitted to the MLC, almost 3/4 of that, 72%, are in an unmatched category, meaning they're not linked to a work, meaning they're not getting paid on. That is a huge amount. And we want to help the individual songwriters and publishers to help match that and to identify where these issues are so that you have an actionable report to go out and get all of that. A little bit on our side, we have 8.5 million songwriters within our system. How we've defined this is if it's any profile that has at least one songwriting credit, we will count it inside of this. We have close to 180 million tracks. And to clarify that, one track can have multiple ISRCs. We see that if they've been released in different territories, we will merge that together so that the credits are accurate on that. But it's very possible for one track to have 4, 5, sometimes even 14 different ISRCs because it's been sent in to different streaming services and also different territories. Then on the total credits that we have 716 million total credits. 710 million of those come directly, the aggregation from the industry, from the label copy, from distributors. 6 million of that have been purely from our own user base. And out of those 6 million, 700,000 of those are songwriting credits. So that's where we have the edge. Those are credits that nobody else has that we're able to then further show you if there are any complications with these songwriting credits. So when we look at all the tracks that are on Muso, and we can also bring in the consumption data on top of that, it makes it really interesting, because what we can see is 33.5 million tracks that we have in Muso with all of their ISRCs that are equal to 17.3 trillion streams do not have any issues and are being properly paid out. Fantastic, right? Like, that's great. But there's two categories of a huge amount of tracks with still quite a lot of streams behind them that are not getting paid out upon. And they're either in the unmatched category or the unregistered category. And the unmatched means the MLC knows about them, but it's not tied to a work. The unregistered means it's not even within the MLC system at all. And so in both of these categories, you're leaving royalties on the table that we're able to help identify. And what we've done here is there's quite a lot of pivots that show the interesting side of when you look at the whole industry data, where the gaps are. So this is showing that even for the superstars, and there's about, so I take the top almost 500 songwriters in the world, that there's 21 billion streams affected on those songwriters that have critical issues that are not properly registered within the MLC. And you can see there's a quite high percentage affected across every single category, but it's even higher at the higher end of the popular songwriters. And that's where the most amount of money is left on the table. If we look at the release date, it should be no surprise that 70% of all the issues have been from tracks that have been released in the last 4 years. But there's still, quite a lot of issues, even in the stuff from the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. So it's not purely isolated on them, but there's a very big portion that has been created in the last a couple of years that has not been properly reflected. If we look at the streaming ranges, what is even more interesting is there's 29 tracks with more than 1 billion streams that have these issues at the MLC. And like, those are really simple, small fixes that we can help with, that have a lot of royalties behind them that are just not correctly done. Even tracks from the 10 million to the 1 billion to the 10 million to 100 million, there's a pretty solid number of tracks in those categories that have to be fixed and that have to be solved. And hopefully we can help you do that. We also looked at the genres. This is just to show, well, there's a huge amount in ambient, just because that's in a whole different category. But in hip hop, electronic, pop, jazz, it's really represented amongst most of the really big genres. So it's not a one genre only specific issue. And what we then see on our side with what we've done in Muso, so all the 700,000 songwriting credits that have been added into Muso, we see that the sum of those streams is 300 billion, and there's 1.3 million count of issues amongst the user or amongst the credits that have been sent in through Muso. So that is the whole industry, like in and of itself, that we've compared with the Muso and the MLC. But how does that come down to an individual songwriter? And what I want to show here is something that we have done. So we have this new page that is on our mobile app and also on our web app as well, called Audits, where we show you the total songwriting issues, and then we have critical issues, partial issues, and your affected collaborators. Now, the critical issues is where tracks where all the ISRCs inside of that track are either unmatched or unregistered, meaning there's 100% certainty that you are not getting paid on these streams and on these ISRCs within the MLC. We have some partial issues too. So this is only to say that if you have a track that has multiple ISRCs, maybe 3 of them are correct and 1 of them is not, that is a whole separate category on partial it is not guaranteed that there's missing royalties there for you, but at least to let you know that there are some gaps in there. And then what has been our goal from the start is the community aspect, in that you can let your collaborators and friends and people know, hey, you have so many issues outstanding, and you can alert them on it. So if we go into the catalog over here, is we can understand the whole catalog that has the critical errors, how many IRCs are affected, that is filtered down by streams to make it the most actionable right away. And if we go into the partial issues, that is also possible. And on the collaborator side, we will have a list of people you have worked with the most, and then how many issues they have with the streams affected by them. This is only the streams that we can guarantee to say that you have issues around, that you can share, and you can bring them onto the platform to help do all of this. Now, where this all comes down to is the exporting of all of this. And what we urge our songwriters to do is to be able to share this with either their publishing admin or their publisher themselves, that has some information around what this audit is, how it's affected, has some information around that, and then within the audit tab itself, it will show all the affected tracks with how many streams they have on Spotify, also the URLs on Spotify, and then also the URLs on Muso, for you to be able to investigate on your own as well. So the critical issue group, again, is where 100% of the ISRCs of this track are in either the unmatched category or the unregistered category. And the partial ones is if only one or some of the ISRCs of a track are in the unmatched or in the unregistered category, for you to be able to solve it by yourself. And what we allow in our platform to do is not only for the individual songwriters and the individual contributors, is we allow publishers to do this for their entire roster. So they can get alerted when new things happen. They can add more profiles that they want to see, and they have a full range of understanding of what is happening for their whole roster of songwriters, so not only a single one. And so the same happens on the analytics and the managing of credits and the ability to do shareables and plaques. We now have the same for auditing, where the individuals or the publishers can do this for all the affected songwriters. And this is live today for everybody. This is under our paid plans. If you're an individual, this is under our pro plan. If you're a business, this is under our business plan, and you can have it for as many profiles as you want. And yeah, so a quick recap before we go into a Q&A. So we have a very rich data set that has been the aggregation of label copy data from distributor data from streaming services that we're able to compare to what is on the MLC. These audits are available for all songwriters and publishers once they have claimed their profile on our platform, and available for those on a paid plan. The audits will refresh every single week, roughly every single week. It's every single time that we bring in new data from the MLC, we will let you know if we have found any new issues and if you have solved any of the old ones. And the audits start with the MLC, but it will iterate to check a lot more places in the future. YouTube CMS, PROs, other CMOs around the world, where we will tell you if your credits that you have in your songwriting catalog are properly registered with all the places that it should be. And I want to thank you all for your time, and we can go to Q&A.
I answered a lot of the questions while you were speaking, Kieran. So if anyone
okay.
has any new ones, feel free to send them in.
Yep, folks, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box and we will get to them now. Want to just take a quick moment to say thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kieran, for walking us through the Muso.AI platform and specifically the new audits tool. Really exciting work you all are doing, and we're glad to showcase it here today. So, folks, if you've got any questions for the Muso.AI team, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box now.
Someone asked earlier about do you have to have a claim profile in order to be able to see the audit feature inside of Muso? And as of now, the answer is yes, but we will be coming out with a feature that allows for you to do discovery. So if you're thinking about signing someone, you could see how much recoupment you could possibly get as well.
I see one coming in from Jason Wells. How much is the paid program for an individual? That starts at $12.50 a month on Pro. If you're on the annual, that will come down to $10 a month.
A lot of the publishers that we work with, the biggest value add that I see is they're able to prioritize based on stream count. That's something really different that we do that no one else has. So if something has 1 million streams and something has 10,000 streams, like obviously they should be going after the one that has 1 million streams first. So it's helps them prioritize the work.
I see a question from Jermaine Jones. Could you elaborate on signing someone? So this would be if a publisher wants to sign a songwriter, they can use this tool to see if there are any unpaid royalties for them to go and claim in order for them to recoup the amount that they would be signing the songwriter for.
Yeah, we've been doing that privately for a while behind the scenes, and that's kind of like what originated this product, that there was so much value add and the data that we were able to privately give to a lot of the big publishers. So we've opened it up so everybody could see it. And the collaborator feature, I mean, that's your chance to give your friend a free lunch, or get a free lunch from your friend. If you find some lost money for them, you send them our way, and they can see their the problems in their audit tool. There's one more question.
Does Muso give an estimate of how much money is behind an unclaimed track? That we do not. We do not know how much you own of the track, or we do not know what your current contract is, or what the split is. What we can accurately say is this track is getting streamed so much on the streaming services. We can give you that number, and then you should know your share amount or your own deal with the contract of what that could mean for you.
Henrik, there's a question for you.
Yes, so Natalia asked recording of the webinar. This webinar will be recorded. It will be hosted on musicbiz.org. For members of the Music Business Association, you'll have unlimited access to this webinar. Non-members will have access to this for 90 days. We will drop that link in the chat. Looks like Elena just dropped that in the chat. Thank you, Elena. So that recorded webinars link will be where you'll look to access this at end of business today.
Then I see a question from Ashley from the business account. Can you get info on your clients who might not have claimed their profile, or is that part of the update soon? So Ashley, currently we require, so say that you come on board and you as the publisher would claim your own songwriters, and we can give you access to all of them. So it's not a requirement for them to be on the platform, but you can even go through this process on their behalf. It is currently a requirement for you or them to do that, but we are soon lifting that for you to be able to do that for any profile in our system. And then I see one in the chat as well from Dylan. Once we export the audits from the platform, how do we address the issues to make sure that we're probably getting paid on those? Who do we submit the audits to? So this will typically either go to your publishing admin or to your publisher. If you're independent, you will have to go onto the MLC's platform yourself and you will have to send in these ISRCs and these works. They have some great resources available on their YouTube and on their site in order to see how you can do that.
Mm-hmm. In the actual audit report that you get from Muso, it describes how you could do that too, I think. Is that right, Kieran?
Not at the moment, no, but
Okay.
if you have a publisher or a publishing admin, they will guaranteed know how to action upon this.
So there's a question about banking integration. So far, we have not been part of the collection side of it. It's just more informational that we could, people could use our data to help solve their problems. We are looking at opportunities in this space, but as of now, CAS, we don't do that yet.
Mm. And Giovanni, so if Sony Music ATV handles some of my pub, I can just send this audit over to them and they would handle it. Yes, exactly. If you give them some a context saying that you got this audit over from us and that it has all the ISRCs that are currently not on the MLC, they should be able to solve that for you.
Give folks another minute or two here, but I just want to say again, thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kieran, for spending this afternoon with us talking about the the Muso audit tool. And for folks in attendance today, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for your chats and thanks for your Q&A. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Looks like we got one more question, a couple more questions coming in.
Cool. Kieran, you want this one?
What are your thoughts for making the system itself less complicated? A bunch of these songs are properly written and performed by the same human beings who maintain any kind of translations to from people identities and artist identities. So we have struggled, or not struggled, but have contemplated quite a lot in what our role in all of this is, and we have kind of steered away from trying to be the arbiter of what is correct and what is not. So we've done the aggregation. We've done things that we're 100% certain of that this can help merge and solve some of the underlying issues. But really, where we see the value add is we're empowering the individual creators to make some of these changes. So if somebody wanted their artist and their profile to be merged together, that can be done. If they want it to be split and completely separate, that can also be done. There's sadly no one way to, help all of it from scratch, but rather we want to empower the industry to help solve this issue. I don't think it's one company that can solve all of it. It's really the individual contributions of the whole industry coming together.
Right. And if there's a list of things like an Excel file or some CSV file that you want to send us, our support is very friendly in being able to get whatever it is that you think is right, and we'll investigate it and try to do our best to fix it for you. If it takes too long to do it one by one in our platform, you could definitely send the stuff over to us in bulk.
And then I see one more from Dylan. Is there a reason why streams for Apple Music, Tidal, etc. are not available on Muso? This is just to do with partnerships. Apple Music is somewhat hesitant to expose their streams to third parties. We are in quite deep conversations with a Tidal, and we're before the end of the year going to be showing the Koba streams and Angami streams as well. So we're continuously working with the streaming companies in the industry to continue to show more.
That's a great place to lobby if you guys want to do any lobbying when it comes to trying to convince Apple, trying to convince some key players in the space to start sharing their stream data. Spotify does a great job in sharing it publicly. MLC does a great job in sharing their data publicly. Hopefully more and more people start to do that. But as of now, it's just it's a lobbying effort to get it done. But we've made a very big effort to try to get data from Apple, from Amazon. Amazon's working with us right now to try to figure it out. Apple has denied it, so we have to obviously lobby and show them lots of reasons for that. But it's a lot of work to get everybody to open up their kimono.
All right, looks like we are approaching the end of Q&A here. I want to thank you both again for joining us today and walking us through the audit tool. Thank you to everybody who showed up today. We really appreciate your time and all your questions for Aaron and Kieran. Folks, Cobuzz was just mentioned. I'll just bring up that Cobuzz will be our next presenting webinar company on October 30th. So if you're interested in hearing what they have to say, we look forward to hosting you at that event. And again, thank you so much, Muso.AI, for presenting today. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.